Chosen one, look at your left hand. There may be a mark there that you have noticed for years. It may be a crossing, a shape, or one line that seems unlike the rest. But hear this carefully. The mark does not make you superior. It does not guarantee that every feeling comes from God. Its deeper meaning is more demanding. It points toward someone who notices patterns, senses what others overlook, and carries unusual perception. Yet many sensitive people stay trapped in confusion. They feel the calling, but they cannot see the next step. Before this message ends, you will understand 3 meanings of the mark. You will also see why a chosen person can stand inches from an open door without recognizing it. The calling may remain, while the receiver becomes covered. Now, open your left hand. Do not search for a perfect symbol. Some notice a cross, a triangle, or one deep line. The shape itself is not the final message. Your palm cannot decide your worth. The mark is useful only as a mirror. You notice what others miss. You hear the hesitation behind confident words. You feel tension before an argument begins. You sense hidden pain behind a smile. That does not mean every impression is divine. It does not mean every fear is a warning. Sensitive people can confuse anxiety with intuition after years of stress. This is why the first meaning of the mark is not power. The first meaning is perception. Perception notices patterns before they become obvious. It may appear as creativity, careful observation, or a quiet sense that something does not fit. Used with humility, it can protect you. Without clarity, it can exhaust you. Think about your life. Have people told you that you think too much? Have you sensed trouble before the truth appeared? Have you received a strong idea, then watched someone else act on something similar later? These moments do not make you better than anyone. They reveal a pattern of attention. A gift for seeing outward can still exist beside deep confusion inward. You can recognize hidden motives, but when the decision belongs to you, clarity disappears behind fear, fatigue, and endless second-guessing. Then you search for another sign, hoping one more symbol will remove every doubt. The real issue may not be missing signs. It may be the condition of the mind receiving them. Stress can make every feeling seem urgent. Exhaustion can make simple choices feel impossible. Repeated disappointment can teach you to distrust your own mind. This is why the third meaning matters most. It does not sit on the surface of your skin. It lives in the way you receive, test, and carry what you perceive. We will return to it, because it explains the delay that has confused you. For now, remember this. The mark is not a certificate. It is an invitation to become responsible with what you notice. It asks whether your perception is guided by humility and whether you can act without endless approval. If you have always felt that your left hand carried a reminder you could not explain, write, "I am ready to see," clearly. Do not write it to prove that you are above anyone. Write it as a decision to stop hiding from what your life has been trying to show you. Your hand may carry a visible pattern, but your future will be shaped by clarity, humility, and the courage to act. The first meaning of the mark is perception, but perception alone is not enough. A person can notice what others miss and still use that awareness in the wrong way. This is why the second meaning is not status. It is responsibility. Think of the mark as a covenant. It is a reminder that whatever you perceive must be carried with humility, tested with wisdom, and used in service rather than pride. This is the left-hand covenant. It begins when you stop asking whether the mark makes you special. The mark does not create your identity. Your choices reveal what you do with it. Many people search for signs because they no longer trust what is inside them. They want one more confirmation from outside. But a sign cannot become a substitute for character. The old explanation says you need stronger proof. The hidden problem is different. You may have handed your identity to a symbol. Then every time the symbol feels unclear, your confidence collapses. You begin waiting for permission to live the life you already know requires courage. The shift is simple. The mark does not authorize you. It reminds you to observe carefully and remain humble. Insight without discipline can become fantasy, while sensitivity without boundaries can become exhaustion. Look back across your life. Where did your perception protect someone, reveal a hidden problem, or warn you before a costly choice? These moments matter more than the shape, because they show awareness becoming useful. Perhaps you noticed danger and ignored it. Perhaps you sensed that a relationship was draining you, yet stayed from fear. Perhaps you buried an idea under doubt until someone else acted on something similar. Do not punish yourself with those moments. Use them as evidence that perception needs support. A gift can remain while confidence is weak, and a signal can remain while the receiver is tired. This covenant must become practical. Test what you feel against truth. Give important decisions time. Notice whether an impression creates grounded peace or frantic urgency. Refuse to call every emotion a message. Your hand cannot diagnose your health or guarantee success. It cannot replace prayer, judgment, or professional guidance. It can only remind you to stop abandoning your awareness. There is also a deeper mystery. Some people were once sharp, creative, and quick to understand. Then life grew louder, their thoughts scattered, and they concluded that the gift had disappeared. What if it did not disappear? What if the gift remained while the receiver became harder to access? Over recent years, a research team in New York has described a method designed to support coordination within the brain in 8 minutes a day. We will return to that later. It is not a substitute for faith, and it is not proof of any divine claim. For now, hold one question. What happens when the gift remains intact, but stress, noise, and a divided mind cover the receiver meant to carry it? The left-hand covenant asks you to stop worshipping the sign. It asks you to honor what the sign represents. Notice with humility, test with wisdom, serve with courage, and prepare the receiver, because the next truth you need may already be closer than you think. There is a painful reason chosen people feel forgotten. They notice everything around them, yet they cannot understand what is happening within them. They pray, they wait, and they watch for direction. Still, the answer feels far. This creates a fear. Perhaps God stopped speaking. Perhaps you missed the moment. Perhaps you failed a test that everyone else understood. The longer the silence continues, the more confusion begins to feel like rejection. But confusion is not proof of abandonment. A tired mind can struggle to recognize what a peaceful mind would notice. Stress can narrow attention. Fear can repeat one thought until it sounds important. Exhaustion can make a simple decision feel spiritually heavy. The source may not be silent. The receiver may be carrying too much noise. This does not reduce every spiritual experience to biology. It simply respects the fact that your body, attention, emotions, and faith affect how you process what happens around you. Anxiety usually repeats. It demands an answer immediately. It paints every delay as danger. Grounded peace feels different. It can be firm, but it does not need to terrorize you. It may ask for courage, while still leaving room to think and seek wisdom. Before an important choice, separate 3 voices. First, notice peace. It points toward a truthful step without attacking your worth. Second, notice fear. It circles the same threat and offers no grounded action. Third, notice false urgency. False urgency says everything will collapse unless you decide now. Sometimes action is truly urgent, but panic is not the same as guidance. When the stakes involve health, safety, money, or law, wise professional help matters. This distinction can release a heavy burden. You do not need to interpret every unclear season as punishment. You do not need to accuse yourself of weak faith because your attention is exhausted. You may need rest, support, medical care, or healthier ways to process stress. The real question is not whether you can prove the mark. The question is whether you can distinguish perception from projection. Perception notices what is present. Projection places an old wound over a new moment, then treats the past as if it is happening again. The mark does not promise that you will always know. It reminds you to become honest about the receiver. When you are exhausted, pause. When you are afraid, slow the story down. When the choice is serious, ask for evidence and wise counsel. Now, release one belief. Release the belief that confusion means you have been abandoned. Release the belief that silence means the promise is dead. Release the belief that needing support makes you less spiritual. If this speaks to your season, write, "The signal is not lost." You are not declaring that every feeling is true. You are declaring that fog does not have the authority to define your relationship with God. There is still another layer. Many people remember being sharper when they were young. They learned quickly, imagined freely, and noticed details without effort. Then adulthood arrived, life became divided, and that original clarity seemed to fade. The next truth is not that childhood was perfect. It is that a capacity can become covered without being destroyed. What you remember may not be gone. It may be waiting beneath years of pressure, scattered attention, and survival. Chosen one, think back to the child you were. Learning felt faster then. Imagination arrived without permission. You could follow one idea for hours, and the world felt full of connections waiting to be discovered. You may have noticed what adults tried to hide. You felt a room change before anyone spoke. You created stories, pictures, plans, or private worlds with ease. That early clarity did not need applause. It simply moved through you. Then life became louder. School rewarded certain answers and discouraged others. Work trained you to divide your attention. Phones filled every quiet space. Stress taught your body to remain prepared for problems, even when nothing immediate was wrong. Slowly, the mind that once moved freely began to hesitate. You forgot words in the middle of a sentence. You opened a task, then reached for another screen. You received an idea, but lost it before turning it into action. So you formed a painful explanation. You told yourself that you were becoming less intelligent. You called yourself lazy or scattered. You treated the fog as evidence that the best part of you had disappeared. But what if that explanation is wrong? What if the capacity was not erased? What if it became harder to access because your attention, stress, and daily habits stopped working together as they once did? This is the difference between being gone and being covered. A covered ability can still exist. A covered receiver can still hold the gift, even when access becomes inconsistent and useful thoughts vanish too quickly. This is the covered receiver. It describes someone who still receives insight, but cannot hold it long enough to trust it. The idea arrives. Fear interrupts it. The opportunity appears. Exhaustion makes it look impossible. You may recognize this pattern. Something inside you feels trapped behind glass. You begin meaningful things with real energy, yet struggle to finish them. You remember being sharper, but cannot explain the distance. This is not a moral failure. It is not proof that God removed your gift. It may reflect poor rest, chronic stress, divided attention, emotional pain, or a health issue that deserves professional care. There is also a scientific question worth considering. In 1981, Dr. Roger Sperry received a Nobel Prize for research connected to split brain function. His work expanded understanding of how different brain regions contribute to experience. That research does not prove a spiritual mark. It does not prove one audio method will work for every person. But it helped widen the conversation about coordination, processing, and what happens when parts of the brain work together. The brain is more complex than saying one side is logical and the other creative. Still, coordination matters. Attention matters. Your state can influence what you notice, remember, and use. So, ask yourself 3 questions. Do strong ideas disappear within seconds? Do you begin meaningful work, but lose the thread? Do you feel that your real mind is waiting behind a layer of fog? If the answer is yes, stop using the fog as your identity. The child you remember was not imaginary. That freedom may reveal a capacity buried beneath pressure, distraction, and years of surviving. The next revelation concerns the gap between an opportunity and your ability to recognize it. A door can be open, a signal can be present, and a gifted person can still walk past both when the receiver is covered. An open door is useless when you cannot recognize it. Many sensitive people remain trapped here. Something important may already be present in a form they did not expect. This is the recognition gap. It is the distance between what exists around you and what your present state allows you to notice. Provision can be present, but an unclear receiver may overlook it or delay. This does not mean every missed opportunity is your fault. It does not mean every event was sent by God. Your mental state influences attention, interpretation, and action. The gap appears in ordinary ways. A useful opportunity arrives, but you decide that you are not qualified. A calm relationship appears, but a nervous system trained by chaos mistakes peace for emptiness. A practical idea arrives. You dismiss it because it does not feel dramatic enough to be divine. Then you keep searching for a larger sign, while the next step remains untouched. The shift is simple. Clarity is not always powerful. Often, it is a steady recognition of what is true, what is possible, and what can be done next without betraying your values. Imagine waking without fighting for your attention. Your first thought is not panic. Your prayer is not a desperate negotiation with fear. You sit in silence and notice what deserves your energy. Nothing has to become spectacular. You simply become present. A verse means more because your mind stays with it. A decision becomes lighter because you can separate evidence from old wounds. One small action finally feels possible. This is how the gap begins to close. You stop asking for endless confirmation. You test what you notice. You allow peace, facts, wise counsel, and responsibility to work together before you call something guidance. Now return to the question left open earlier. A research team in New York has described an 8-minute method intended to support coordination within the brain. The method is not presented as proof of a spiritual claim. The important point is the problem it was designed to address. What if your struggle is not a shortage of faith or intelligence? What if the receiver needs support before you can consistently use what is already present? Before that method is named, one distinction must become clear. No tool can create your calling. No audio can make a decision for you. A useful tool can only support the condition from which you observe, evaluate, and act. This protects you from chasing another object as salvation. The goal is freedom. It is greater honesty, clearer judgment, and more responsible action. You are not unworthy because you missed earlier doors. You are not permanently disqualified because fear delayed you. Regret can become information, but it does not need to become your identity. If you are ready to stop calling the fog your identity, write, "Covered is not gone." Let those words change how you interpret this season. In a moment, you will hear the specific 8-minute process described by the New York team, why they say it differs from ordinary audio tracks, and why that difference may matter for an exhausted mind. But first, hold this truth. A solution becomes useful when you understand the problem it serves. You now understand the problem. The gift may remain. The opportunity may be near. The receiver needs clarity to recognize both. Now, the open question can be answered. The reason you may feel blocked is not always a lack of signs. Stress, fragmented attention, and mental fatigue may make it harder to recognize, evaluate, and act on what you receive. This is the why. The gift may remain while the receiver struggles. Prayer can guide your heart, but clarity helps you hold a thought, compare evidence, and take a responsible step. The what has 3 layers. First is the gift. Second is the receiver. Third is stewardship, the action you take after testing what you notice. This may speak most to someone with brain fog, scattered attention, or the memory of being sharper before. Now consider the science bridge carefully. Dr. Roger Sperry received a Nobel Prize in 1981 for research involving split brain function. His work expanded understanding of how brain regions participate in processing. That Nobel Prize did not test this product. It does not prove a spiritual claim. According to the product information, the team drew inspiration from research about coordination between the hemispheres. The team calls its approach neural sync technology. Their stated aim is to support neural synchronization through a targeted auditory sequence. This is their explanation, not a guarantee for every listener. The product page shares a story from Lisa, a nurse in San Diego. She described years of prayer and meditation while still feeling that life was happening to her. According to her testimonial, she later felt as though a blocked channel had opened. She reported less stress, greater presence, and a warmer connection in her marriage. Her story is personal, not a promised outcome. Matthew, a business owner in Houston, described brain fog that had become normal. He also said prayer felt like speaking toward a wall. According to his testimonial, Matthew later described clearer thinking and easier decisions. His experience does not prove the same change for everyone. The tool is called the Genius Switch. It is a digital audio sequence lasting 8 minutes. The instructions are simple. Use headphones, close your eyes, relax, and listen once each day. The product information says no mantra, journaling, or meditation is required. It is positioned as different from ordinary brainwave or binaural tracks. According to the team, the sequence uses a targeted layered design intended to support whole brain activation. Delivery is digital and access is described as permanent. This is not a magical badge. It is for someone willing to treat clarity as stewardship. No product can create a calling, replace prayer, or replace professional support. The page compares it with neurofeedback sessions costing hundreds of dollars. It lists $49 as regular price and $39 as the current price. 4 bonuses are listed. They are a guided visualization, a grocery guide, a manifestation book, and a 5 habits infographic. The page states that purchase includes a money-back guarantee and lifetime access. Read every condition. $39 is real money, so decide without pressure. One honest urgency remains. Every week spent accepting fog as identity can delay action. That does not mean a divine door closes tonight, or that you should ignore your budget. The product information warns that the price may increase. No date is verified here. Decide from details, not panic. The official product is described as available only through the team website. Similar names elsewhere should not be assumed to use the same method. If this matches your experience, official information is linked in the description and pinned comment. Read the page, review the guarantee, and decide without pressure. A tool should support clarity, not replace it. The next step is to understand what clarity must become after the receiver begins to awaken, because recognition without responsible action is only another unfinished sign. The tool does not replace the calling. It cannot pray for you. It cannot obey for you. It cannot decide which door is true. At most, it may support a clearer state while you listen, reflect, and choose. No product can create what God placed within you. No method can replace prayer, healthy habits, wise counsel, or medical care. This matters because a useful tool can become another distraction when you expect it to do your work. Clarity is not the finish line. Clarity is the place where responsibility begins. You may have spent years waiting for one more sign, but the search for certainty can become shelter from the risk of moving. The old belief says everything will become clear without effort. The hidden pattern is delay. You collect messages, but avoid the step already known. Here is the shift. Guidance must eventually become action. A peaceful insight means little when it never enters your calendar, your conversation, your work, or your boundaries. Choose one step you can complete within 24 hours. Send the message. Write the first page. Make the appointment. Review the decision. Remove one distraction that keeps your mind divided. The step does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be honest. Responsible action often looks ordinary, while fear keeps demanding a perfect sign before you begin. Now the third meaning of the mark can be revealed. The first meaning is perception. The second is responsibility. The third is that reception must become action. A mark on your hand proves nothing by itself. The deeper mark appears in the way you live, after you see clearly. It appears when you test an impression, accept correction, and act without placing yourself above others. Imagine your life with that kind of steadiness. You finish the project you kept postponing. You have the conversation you kept avoiding. You notice an opportunity, but you examine it calmly instead of rushing from fear. You stop chasing every strange coincidence. You stop demanding constant confirmation. You become trustworthy with your own insight because you no longer confuse excitement with truth. This can influence work, relationships, and money. Clarity cannot guarantee success, but it can help you compare risks and remain consistent. Ask yourself 3 questions. Do you need another sign, or enough clarity to act on what you already know? Are you missing opportunities, or rejecting those that arrive quietly? Are you willing to care for the receiver with the same seriousness you give the calling? If you are ready to turn recognition into responsible action, write, "I will steward what I see." Your left hand may remind you of perception. Your next decision will reveal stewardship. The door does not need another performance from you. It needs your clear, humble, and courageous step. A final decision remains before the door. You may feel drawn to the method, but questions still matter. Clear decisions are not threatened by honest objections. Perhaps you have tried audio tracks before and felt nothing. That experience is real. You do not need to deny it. The product information does not position this as an ordinary binaural track. The team describes a layered sequence designed around neural synchronization. That distinction is their claim. It is not a promise that your result will match another person. The guarantee exists so buyers can review the terms and decide whether the experience fits them. You may also be thinking about the price. $39 is real money. Do not spend money needed for food, housing, medicine, debt, or family responsibilities. Your worth does not depend on buying. Your calling does not become weaker when your budget says no. Read the page carefully, compare the cost with your priorities, and decide without shame. Another objection may be stronger. It may sound too good to be true. That is why 3 things must remain separate. Research about the brain is one thing. The mechanism described by the product team is another. Personal testimonials are a third. None of these should be blended into a guarantee. Remain open without becoming gullible. Review the claims and guarantee. Separate clear statements from personal experience. You may say that you have no time. The routine is 8 minutes. It may fit beside a stable daily habit. Missing one day does not need to become failure. Return when you can. The goal is not another rigid demand. The goal is a simple space where attention can settle. For the person who felt recognized when the covered receiver was described, the official information remains in the description and pinned comment. Read it carefully and decide from clarity. What remains now is not about a product. It is about the promise you make when you stop confusing fog with identity. Open your left hand again. Notice the shape without worshipping it. Feel the weight of your palm. Let it become a reminder rather than a badge. Say this quietly. I do not need to prove that I am above anyone. I accept responsibility for what I notice. I will care for the mind entrusted to me. The hand will close again. The covenant must continue. It continues when you pause before reacting, when you test what you feel, and when you complete the next honest step. You do not need a perfect future. You need truth for today, humility to be corrected, and courage to move. The final mark is not written by lines on the skin. It is written by the life you build after recognition. It appears in patience, discipline, boundaries, service, and responsible decisions. Before this message ends, release the need to be impressive. Release the need to be constantly confirmed. Prepare to make a quieter promise, one that remains after emotion fades. The sign has brought you to the threshold. Your choice will determine whether insight becomes a life. Chosen one, release the belief that the fog is your identity. Release the shame attached to every forgotten word, unfinished plan, and delayed decision. These moments may describe a season, but they do not define your soul. Release the fear that you lost the calling. Release the need to prove that you are special. Stop treating every delay as rejection. You may care for your mind without believing your faith is weak. Seek rest, medical support, wise counsel, or practical help when needed. You are also allowed to begin again. Missed opportunities can teach you. They do not need to become a prison. Regret can become wisdom when you stop using it as a weapon. Now, reclaim your responsibility. Test what you feel. Compare it with truth. Notice whether it produces grounded peace, honest courage, and actions that respect both you and others. Clarity is not loud. It does not always arrive with a sign. Sometimes, it appears as the next simple step you have avoided because it seemed too ordinary. Place your left hand open before you. Let the mark become a reminder of humility. Let your breath slow. Let your shoulders soften. Say these words with intention. I am not the fog that covered me. I am not the delay that tested me. I am not the fear that made every signal difficult to trust. I receive clarity without pride. I carry perception without placing myself above another soul. I honor the mind God gave me. I test what I feel. I act on what is true. I release the need for endless confirmation. What was covered is not gone. What was delayed is not dead. What was placed within me will be carried with wisdom, humility, and courage. God, quiet the noise that has made truth difficult to recognize. Help this person separate fear from discernment and urgency from wisdom. Heal the shame that grew around their confusion. Guide them toward the support they need, whether that support is spiritual, practical, emotional, or medical. Give them courage for the next honest step. Not 10 steps, not the entire future. Give them enough light for the responsibility in front of them. Protect them from pride. Protect them from manipulation. Protect them from calling every strong feeling a message and from rejecting every quiet truth because it lacks drama. Let clarity serve love. Let perception serve wisdom. Let every gift become useful. Through patience, boundaries, honesty, and action, the meaning is now complete. The mark does not prove that you are above anyone. It reminds you of perception and responsibility. The fog is not your identity. A clearer receiver can help you examine what you notice, understand what matters, and turn insight into a grounded decision. A calling is not completed when you see a sign. It is carried through the way you live after the sign has been understood. If this message has become a covenant between you and the clarity you are ready to protect, write, the mark becomes my responsibility. If this message gave language to something you carried in silence, leave a like so another person with the same confusion can find it. You know someone who once became alive when speaking about the future. Now that person pauses and says, I do not know what happened to me. Send this message to that person. Do not tell them they are chosen above others. Remind them that covered is not gone. Subscribe if you are ready for messages that do more than confirm identity and help you carry it with wisdom. Now, close your left hand gently. Do not close it to hold the promise by force. Close it as someone willing to protect what has been entrusted. May your perception become humble. May your thoughts become steadier. May your next decision be shaped by truth rather than panic. May you recognize safe people. May you notice honest opportunities. May you walk away from what requires you to betray your peace, your health, or your values. The mark was never meant to make you untouchable. It was meant to remind you to become trustworthy with what you see.